Okay, so based upon this wonderful structure that we get, okay, one of the things that I tried to point out on these layers over here, I tried to point out these little, they look like ants, okay, that's pretty much how they look to me, okay. But what they're trying to show in this representation right here, what they're showing us are those osteoblasts that have laid down the matrix and are now stuck in the matrix, which means they are now an osteocyte, okay? So once again, we're going to see that osteoblast lays down the matrix. That becomes the mature cell. When it's stuck, it becomes the osteocyte, and it is going to be found in its lacuna. This time, the difference is, do you notice anything that's happening cell to cell? There's connections. We did not have that in the cartilage. Do you know why we might now have connections? I mentioned before break, bone is very much considered dynamic because it can build up and break down. And it does this continuously throughout our lives. So now can you think of a reason that we might have connections? Even though these cells are in these lacuna, they will not have to stay there, okay? Because what cell is needed if the bone needs to break down? The blast builds it up. The site is the mature cell, the clast. So if these cells are put down in layers, okay, we have to have communication from cells in this layer to cells in that layer, as well as cell to cell. And the structure is going to allow for that. So having this structure that we see, we're going to find that we get the mature cell, the osteocyte, the matrix is laid down around it. It's going to be in its lacuna, and they're trying to show everything here. We're going to find that we have these cell extensions, okay, like extension, 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 okay. They are termed a canaliculi. What that is doing is it's allowing for cell to cell. Not only for cell-to-cell communication, we're going to also be able to pass nutrients. Because once again, these cells are very much alive, very much working to maintain the matrix. So, We get to transfer nutrients. We'll have gap junctions. They're serving as like a gap junction for passing the nutrients from one cell to the next. And in this structure that we have, okay, based on osteon, 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 okay, we're not only having the ability to maintain cell to cell, we're getting it through all these layers, okay? So, osteoblast, osteocytes, and once again I'll say, bone is very dynamic. It will continuously remodel throughout our entire lifespan. We also see that bones get broken. Bones have to heal, okay? So another cell, very active, and remember, this is an organ system, okay? Another cell, very active, is an osteoclast. Now, this allows for resorption. What does that mean? What does that term kind of bring to mind? Resorption. Okay, and what is absorb? What? We've already had to absorb calcium phosphate from our intestines, right? So now, if that got deposited into the bone, and we now have an osteoclast that's coming along and breaking it down. It's now releasing that calcium phosphate, and we do what? Rather than absorb it, we're now reabsorbing into the bloodstream. Does that make sense? So, resorption of the bone. These cells create like a little ruffled border and creates almost like a suction over an area of the bone, releases some acid-type material, okay? That makes the bone break down. As it breaks down, that calcium and the phosphate can go back into the bloodstream. And then when we are, if we are looking at that cell, breaking it down, it will hopefully eventually build back up when calcium levels are back to normal. Okay, so the goal as we think about bone, okay, because bone we think of for storage of calcium. That seems to be one of the big things we think about with our bones. And so hopefully it will go back to being storage. So something else that is going to be found with this structure, okay? This structure, because we do have to build up, break down, repair, okay? What did I say was the blueprint for bone? Hyaline cartilage. So, this is bone. Bone can be broken. What will need to form first if a bone breaks? The hyaline cartilage model. So now, when I look at my structure, if I'm creating that osteon, which has these layers, and I've got osteons together, all right, around a bone, all right? What this is representing right here is a section of it, okay? Like I might have taken this mount to make this. Is everybody following me? Okay? So, that means that these osteons are running like this, around, making this hard bone. And what I've got going around it is that. Can everybody see this? Okay? Once again, wrappings. All right? Connective tissue wrappings. Okay? This wrapping that's going to be going around this bone will contain stem cells. Now, probably in our minds, right now, what do you think of as a stem cell?
Something like deep in the stomach, pipeline. Like, I mean, I know there's stem cells everywhere. That's what I think of, you know, like the vaults.
Okay, and can you think of how in our mind we use stem cells now in the medical field? We're trying to grow something, okay? And stem cells, you know, when egg and sperm meet, embryo forms, we're getting that chemical message to those cells, which are stem cells, okay, to become something, all right? In this case right here, because bone has to grow, remodel, break down, build up, heal, we need to make sure we have access to the cells needed. So in the wrapping around this bone, I have something called osteochondral. Osteo will give rise to what kind of cell? Chondral to what? Why? I need the blueprint. So if this bone were to break, the first thing that would happen or form is the cartilage model. So the wrapping that's around it will have those stem cells ready. So they're termed osteochondral progenitor. Think of Genesis, the beginning, okay? Osteochondral progenitor cells, okay? So now they can either develop into a chondroblast, if I broke it and needed to fix it, okay? Or it could be an osteoblast, putting the bone back, which is kind of